Hi there, thank you very much for visiting my YouTube channel, The Fisherman's Friend, where I'm going to be sharing some of my music and things like that that I'm composing. This piece is a piece that's inspired, I suppose, by the politically correct culture that we now find ourselves living in. Now, first of all, I want to say that, yes, I agree some things needed to change from when I was growing up and what I was watching on the TV. I can't quite believe we watched it and thought it was entertainment. However, sometimes I do think we've gone a bit far in political correctness and being offended and things like that. So what this piece is, it starts very dissonant with a lot of chords and notes that seem to be clashing with one another, and it's sort of a light rhythm, almost a reggae type rhythm to start with, and that represents really that when people crack some jokes or are funny, inevitably every joke is going to offend somebody, but some jokes people do still find funny. And I think we've gone a bit too far with some of this, and we're being offended almost by the wrong things, I think sometimes. My father-in-law, bless him, no longer with us, he said that instead of calling things human rights, we need to call them privileges, because human rights sort of ride roughshod over somebody else's human rights, and there's a conflict and a tension there. And also my brother, some of you know the story, my brother took his own life sadly a few years ago, but it's after he cracked a joke or made a remark in his office. Somebody complained, he had to be suspended because that was a protocol of the time and is still today, and investigated. But I found out since by the senior manager, well, the guy who runs the whole of the social services where my brother was working in the whole of that area, said he actually did nothing wrong. It was just a complaint came in. It had to be investigated as a possible sexist complaint. And basically we got it as funeral cards and messages from people, including female colleagues he'd trained because he was a trainer in social services. And they basically said to us in writing and at the funeral that he was the best trainer they'd ever experienced and had. So somewhere somebody had been offended, politically correct thing, you have to investigate it. So he had to be suspended, he would have been reinstated, possibly moved to somebody else, another department, because somebody was taking offense at his style of humor. And that's all it was. And I'm not blaming the complainant. It was a straw that broke the camel's back. But what this piece is a reflection of all of that, that we have to be careful when we're offended of not taking things so far that it restricts freedoms. And sometimes other people do find it funny. And sometimes I crack jokes at work when I was running a larger company than I am now. And they could have been deemed to be sexist, but I respected every single person who worked for me. And so this is what it's about. And really it's also inspired by a very good friend of mine, Andy. And Andy, I love his company. I love spending time with him. We watch rugby and cricket together. We go to live matches, stuff like this, watch football together. And I'm Welsh, he's English. And his sense of humour is brilliant. So this piece is really dedicated to where he's coming from. And I'm not saying he's politically incorrect or anything like that. But I just think that some of the jokes we crack as a group of friends with one another, somebody somewhere is going to find them offensive. But I still find them funny. Les Dawson years ago, no doubt if you played some of his jokes about his mother-in-law, somebody somewhere is going to find them offensive. I listen to the Goon Show, the Navy Lark, Steptoe and Son, and very often they say before those shows come on the radio, they say basically these reflect the period of the time, and basically, there are different standards and different thoughts and feelings at the time. Well, if that's offensive to somebody, how about let's go for Wagner? Wagner was totally anti-Semitic, yet he's hailed as this great composer. That to me is offensive. Or let's take Shakespeare and the Merchant of Venice, which I studied at school, where Shylock is forced, a Jewish guy is forced to become a Christian. I find that offensive, but because it's high art, it's accepted. Do you see what I mean? There really is a hypocrisy in all of this as well. So I actually find The Merchant of Venice, I think Shakespeare was a brilliant playwright, I find The Merchant of Venice quite offensive. I find Wagner offensive, and yet he's hailed as this wonderful composer. But Wagner criticised Mendelssohn because of his Jewish heritage and basically said that there's nothing of value within Jewish music and Jewish composers because he wanted to be known as somebody as great as Mendelssohn. You know, and I find that offensive. Every time it comes on the radio, any Wagner, I find it offensive because it's so anti-Semitic. So I think we have to be very careful in all of this. So this piece starts with dissonance. It starts with that clashing of thoughts, ideas, but then it moves into something resembling normality, where we go, okay, some people find what I say offensive, I find some of what they say not to my taste, I wouldn't say offensive, but we can all live together and let's instead boogie. So this piece is called You're Joking. In brackets, let's boogie instead. So I hope you enjoy it. Live long and prosper. May the force be with you. Cheers. Bye.